What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you 5 shorter games that I think people should check out this summer. Now, as most people watching this channel are probably aware, it's going to be a fair few quiet months here in terms of game releases for a variety of reasons. So I thought it would be fun to share a few shorter games that people can knock out in just a handful of days even, that I have had a personal ton of fun with in the past. If you want more information about any of these titles, I have reviewed them all, and you can find reviews for them on my channel. But first and foremost, let's start with Maneater. So if the digital world is the only way you can get to the beach this summer, you might consider checking out Maneater, where we of course get to play as the Maneater, or a shark. Now, while just that in and of itself is a fairly unique premise, there aren't exactly a lot of games that let you do that, it gets even more fun when you consider that you actually play a shark that is living in water, polluted with radioactive waste, actually, causing some very unique mutations possible for you, the shark. So you will take a shark from its infancy into mega shark territory, growing and evolving it the entire way over a process that's probably going to run you 10 to 15 hours. And while it's not exactly a deep game, it is a lot of fun. Next up on our list, if you are afraid of the murky depths and what works below, you might just consider playing Call of Cthulhu. Now, Call of Cthulhu is very cool, but it's more of a narrative game than anything else. At first, it kind of makes it seem like you're going to be investigating things and making a lot of choices. Truth be told, it's a fairly on-rails experience, where like the first 2 chapters are pretty much the only areas of the game that have a lot of choice, outside of 1 or 2 things that affect the ending here and there. Overall, very fun experience, again, very short, probably looking at the 10-hour mark for most people, and if you're into the Cthulhu mythos at all, it'll be right up your alley. But moving on to number 3, we have Biomutant. I don't think Biomutant was everything people were hoping it would be, but honestly, it is still a very, very fun game. And while you could theoretically play Biomutant for as long as you want, doing exploring and things, personally, I completed everything in about 30 hours. So still a relatively short game, all things considered. But Biomutant takes place in a sort of post-apocalypse where it is still the planet Earth, but something has happened and most every living thing has mutated into some form of furry nonsense animal, some of which are still out there forming their own tribes, etc. And we have to do our best to save the world, basically. All with a bit of a kung fu flair to it. Overall, though, it's a lot of fun. Definitely not for everybody, to be honest. I would actually recommend checking out my review for this one, probably more than any of the others. But if you're looking for something more lighthearted, Biomutant's really the way to go, because it does that very well. It's a fun, lighthearted game, especially something you can play with your kids. My son actually loves this game. But with number 4 on our list, let's assume you have to get back to the office this summer. You may just consider picking up Control. Now, depending on how you play it, you can actually get a good few hours out of Control, especially if you decide to do all the optional and DLC stuff. In Control, we take on the role of Jesse Faden, who has recently discovered the Federal Bureau of Control, which handles all sorts of paranormal activity, where she is on the hunt for her lost brother, and encounters some trouble along the way in the setting known as the Oldest House, which is where the Bureau is located. And it is fun in the sense that it brings all of this paranormal and just very strange happenings into a sort of like bureaucratic setting in the backdrop, which is hilarious to me. But more than anything, Control is a lot of fun to play. And while it can get a bit repetitive towards the end, it is still nonetheless very fun to hop in, throw stuff around, destroy all your enemies, or even take part in some of the DLC stuff later, which focuses more on like combat arenas even if you want. But it's definitely a lot of fun either way. And last but not least, if you find yourself up all night, or at least much later than you should be, you may just consider checking out Vampire. Now, Vampire sees us taking on the role of a doctor in 1920s London, where we attempt to fight off a blood plague that has in fact turned us into a vampire. The combat of Vampire is a little lackluster in a lot of cases, to be honest, as it is much more of a story game around investigating and learning all about the citizens of certain districts. And honestly, just figuring out what is going on with this plague and why all these supernatural creatures like vampires have descended upon London in this manner. And it's a game with a great story to tell. The combat is okay, but it's definitely on the lackluster side. But a very fun game that honestly, in my opinion, deserves a sequel, which hopefully we'll get eventually. But without exaggeration, Vampire is one of the best vampire games I have ever played. next only to probably Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Nonetheless, there you guys go. There are 5 games, a bit on the shorter side, that I highly recommend people check out this summer if you've got some time to check out some older games with the lack of new releases we're about to see. So with all of that said, guys, truly, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, but regardless of any of that, truly, thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.